So how about that death battle news, huh? I was fairly confident they'd find a way to continue after the closure of Rooster Teeth, but I wasn't expecting to hear an update this soon, nor that they'd be going indie. What I expected even less though, was to be one of many people contacted by the Death Battle crew to make a short video to get even more buzz around their Kickstarter, alongside people like the Australian one, Ant-Man vs Atom's biggest fan, and others that I won't name directly because I don't know who else is committed to it. They asked us to talk about our favourite episode and our favourite moments as part of the Versus community. Before we get to the latter, I've talked about my favourite episode a good few times now, so how about I do something I haven't yet and make a rapid fire top 10, because God forbid I release a video this year without some kind of ranking in it. Number 10, Sauron vs the Lich King. Few other episodes are quite this visually striking. The clashing oranges and blues look beautiful while conveying the fight's progression perfectly, and the biblical scale of the conflict with stuff like the exploding volcano was sold in a way unlike any other non-cosmic fight. The dialogue is made up of some of my favourite lines as well, like the
I'll tear out your heart. You will find nothing.
exchange, and the I see you reveal that Arthur's sneak attack failed before he even tried it. All sold with perfect deliveries from Ryan Solis and Philip Sacramento. I didn't expect to like it this much given my lack of experience with the characters, but I'm very happy to be so pleasantly surprised. Number 9, Balrog vs TJ combo. The epitome of simple but effective. It commits to such a great atmosphere as if this was a real boxing match, and the combat here is some of Torian's all-time best. Considering how these two have no flashy powers, this could have so easily gotten stale and boring, but it knows exactly how to pace itself with round breaks and the gradual descent into a full-on brawl with special moves that tosses the rules out the window. It has so many cool looking shots and a contender for the show's best comeback, with TJ only needing 3 words to outdo most other full-on monologues that other characters have gotten.
I ain't done!
Number 8, SpongeBob vs Super Friends Aquaman. Your mileage will vary if you're not a SpongeBob fan, but I hold so many fond memories of that show's golden age, so of course I was gonna love this. I've seen this get written off as just a spite fight, but it does give Arthur some genuine respect, and it may be the most comedically strong episode of the show to me. The bewilderment from the hosts as they discover how broken SpongeBob is and how much Arthur straight up sucks is comedy gold. Ben in particular gets so many amazing line reads that really stand out next to how he normally voices Wiz. Every time I go back to this pair of analyses, I always get at least a few laughs. Number 7, Samurai Jack vs Afro Samurai. I had to do a double take seeing this one so relatively low down, then I remembered, alright, season 10 happened. You'd think 6 years later this would show its age, but it is remarkably airtight. Luis Hand drew this whole thing himself, which is insane to think about, and even past the novelty of the art style being unique amongst other episodes, I think it's incredibly well written, making a lot of creative uses of its bridge set piece. The characters change appearance to reflect the progression of the fight, the one-stroke duel is actual cinema, and the analyses are somehow able to be just as entertaining with banger joke after banger joke, and also the single best end clip in the show back when they were still doing those. Number 6, Meta vs Carolina. What a novel concept to have the crossover aspect of this episode be with Death Battle itself. I live for seeing the hosts interact with the Blood Gulch crew. The abuse of Griff somehow never gets old, and the reveal of Sarge as Boomstick Sad is still the best joke in that archetype by far. The fight is pretty cool too. It doesn't feel redundant to any canon event since the characters have never squared off for their full arsenals, so we get plenty of creative and memorable interactions that weren't already done in Red vs Blue. I also have a huge soft spot for this episode since it's what kickstarted the domino effect that led to me working on projects with and subsequently getting closer with many of my friends that I've met through this community. But more on that later. Number 5, Iron Man vs Lex Luthor. I remember watching this for the first time when I was 12 and getting so hyped at the "I've been playing human" speech at the end. I don't think any other monologue in the show goes quite as hard as this. It's the Marvel vs DC episode that most feels like a proper crossover, giving us so many memorable dialogue exchanges and a fight that shows the tables turning from Tony getting his ass kicked, to matching Lex evenly but still losing, to taking the edge in a very cathartic beatdown before the best disintegration death in the show. The analyses hold up great too. Ben has gone on record saying he thinks it's too long, but I could not disagree more. Number 4, Solid Snake vs Sam Fisher. There was a solid 3-year period where I straight up did not think that this could be topped. Like the last episode, this is one of the episodes to most feel like a proper crossover that tells an actual story. It allows for both characters' partners to be used, they make the most of the location, and the ending has perhaps the best use of music in this series. I don't think anything's ever going to top Divine Identity playing over that final knife fight. Number 3, Scooby-Doo vs Courage the Cowardly Dog. This has even better hand-drawn animation than Jack vs Afro and surpasses SpongeBob vs Aquaman in sheer cartoon absurdity. Cosmic God Scooby-Doo is all I need to show you to convince you that it's top tier. And for once, I'm actually happy that it ended resulted in a draw because it means I don't have to watch a dog die. Number 2, Saitama vs Popeye. Beyond the cool fight, this episode strikes all the right chords with me for how well it does my boy Saitama. He's my favourite character in all of fiction, so to see him tackled with such respect while not overcompensating into the he's literally unbeatable by anyone ever angle is such a refreshing change from how I normally see him discussed. The ending where he just gets a moment to stop and reflect on the battle he sought after for so long really hammers home how well they understand his character. It's not a scenario he'd ever faced in canon. Hell, even the similar situation he got put in the following year hit him with the opposite attitudes, but nothing here feels unbelievable given the drastically different context. Hell, set the episode as some of the show's best animation, music, character rundowns, jokes, everything I could want really, only surpassed by number 1, Bill Cipher vs Discord. Not a surprise to anyone who's been following him for the last year. This episode excels in pretty much every way. Thorough analyses, a lengthy and creative fight with multiple animation styles to make it feel even more special, impeccable voice acting delivering very entertaining banter, an ending with a shocking amount of emotional weight to it, this just has it all. And Bill is only behind Saitama as my favourite death battle combatant, so having both of their episodes in my top 2 makes me just as happy as you'd expect. Now, as for my favourite moments within the death battle community, there are a good few of those both on my own and in my friend group. I've been watching Death Battle since I was like 8 years old, so of course I have a bunch of really fond childhood memories of the earlier seasons. Pikachu vs Blanca I remember hitting me with a double whammy of genuinely kinda scaring me with Blanca suddenly chomping and blending the little rat, and then as I was processing that I got completely taken aback by the Goku vs Superman reveal at the end. That day was wild. I also remember explaining the TMNT Battle Royale episode to my dad one time who just kind of looked back at me with complete confusion. That was kinda funny. Plenty of other big moments in the show got me hyped, but some of the ones that get the most excitement out of me were some of the next time reveals. The late 2010s were when my Overwatch obsession was at its worst, so the announcements of both of their episodes stood out as some of the ones to get me the most excited. I didn't think Tracer vs Scout had a shot at happening when it did due to the recency of Overwatch's release. And say what you will about the final episode, but it made for one of the most exciting lead-ups to any episode for me. Same goes for when they got their run back with Widow vs Widow. It was so cool to see them get a more modern coverage at the time and iron out all the issues the last one had. I was so excited for it that I even made a prediction video on my first ever episode review, and if you remember those from before I purged them, no you don't. Actually, season 6 was the season that just kept on giving. Back in the Texas Beach days, I had a top 15 most wanted matchups video planned, including both Wario vs DDD and Mob vs Tatsumaki. Then, wouldn't you know it, we got both of those. Mob vs Tatsumaki in particular was my number 1 most wanted, so being told it was announced as the next episode when Ganon vs Drac was still in early access was the most excited I've ever been for an upcoming episode. A similar level of excitement followed on for the other One Punch Man episodes. I will never forget watching Madara vs Aizen with my friends, getting to the next time trailer, seeing Saitama and everyone groaning because, fuck, they're gonna feed him to Goku or Superman or something equally boring. And then getting blindsided by Popeye, turning this into one of the group's collective most anticipated episodes. Luis even referenced this specific reaction on the cast.
No!
It's either like, what? Or like,
yeah.
Yo, that's like...
Dude,
This will forever be Brandon's legacy. And that leads me into the various experiences I've had watching these episodes with my friends. Something I've done for most episodes from season 8 onwards. That's where most of my fondest community experiences come from, because I'm not too involved with the wider Death Battle fan sphere. Most notable thing that happened there is that I ran a joke into the ground, a bunch of other people did the same, and then they made it into a t-shirt, one that I make sure to wear whenever I go out to meet with my friends now. I always have a hoodie on over it, but they always know. As for those group watch parties though, the Saitama vs Popeye reveal only scratches the surface. I've had so many first viewings of episodes made so much more memorable for me by watching them in calls. The group pop-offs over stuff like I Am the Impossible, the Hulk vs Broly reality breaks, and the entire climax to Yoda vs Mickey have stuck with me for years, even though we unfortunately never recorded them. Plenty of others though we have been able to preserve, and while there have been plenty of pop-offs over individual moments, a lot of them I remember for the general enthusiasm towards the overall episodes and the circumstances surrounding them. Hulk vs Iron Fist and Saitama vs Popeye were ones that had a lot of buzz around the group for having some of our favourite characters, and everyone was enamored with both episodes, but everyone else actually held off watching them for a good few hours after they released, because I was working those days and they wanted to wait for me to get home so I could be there since they involved some of my favourite series. A gesture that really meant a lot to me. Some like Harley vs Jinx and Boba Fett vs Predator ended up being highlights of really tough weeks for me, giving me something to distract myself with and positive memories to associate with those times. times. Others like SpongeBob vs Aquaman, Bill vs Discord, and Scooby vs Courage were really fun because everyone watching was so excited about them all. And I've said before, but the most fun I've had with any first viewing of an episode is actually Rocket vs Stitch. It was the first and currently only episode I've been able to watch with a group in person on the trip we all went on. I actually arrived a day later than everyone else because my journey got delayed 21 hours, but everyone was willing to wait until I got there before we all watched it together, so that was really nice. That's one of the coolest things about this show. As much as I'll make fun of Death Battle fans are never beating the no other interest allegations, it is really special how the show is able to bring people together from all sorts of different fandoms and facilitate friendships between people that may have never otherwise met. I know so many of my closest friends because we met through Versus circles, so it'll always hold a special place in my heart for the rest of my life. Plus, it's the reason I even have the platform that I do now, so it's changed my life in more ways than one. Beyond how it's changed me though, there's also how the show has changed itself. When it started out, it was never meant to be taken that seriously. I mean, it still isn't, but even less so back then. It was just supposed to be cool fights on whatever budget they had, with the analysis side of it being seen more as a joke than anything. Nowadays though, while we still have plenty of cool bashing action figures together fights, we've also gotten a clear increase in both production value and the amount of thought that goes into everything. Death battles are now able to show more than just cool interactions between power sets and gruesome kills. They're able to show how characters might talk with each other, how well they might get along in other contexts, how they might not be able to stand each other, sometimes even having actual narratives that extend past the battles themselves. These episodes have grown to be labours of love from the cast and crew that make them, and it's been so cool seeing that gradual evolution over the last decades. Now, for those of you who've kept up with the other videos I've made on the show recently, you might be feeling a bit of deja vu. The show's grown a lot, Bill Corden made Scorsese weep, Rocket vs Stitch is very special to me. None of these sentiments are new on this channel. But this is all to lead into the call to action part of the video. You might be aware that the show has now gone fully independent for the first time. They've always been under Screw Attack or Rooster Teeth, but now they've got to make it on their own. No parent company, the show belongs to the people that made it. And to help with that, they've set up a Kickstarter to help fund their first batch of 4 episodes, which is linked in the description. This is going to be a tricky time for them since they no longer have a parent company funding them. But at the same time, think of everything that's possible now that they have even more creative freedom to do whatever they want. They can put out whichever passion projects they most want to do, and get full control over how they go about it, with the only feedback they need to listen to being from their peers rather than a corporate board. If seasons 8 through 10 are any indication, Death Battle may be in the middle of its renaissance, allowing it to flourish in a way that was never possible before. That's why I'd encourage anyone watching this who is an adult and in a financially secure enough position to be able to do so responsibly, to donate to the Kickstarter if they can and help get the show off the ground. With how many eyes are on it, even $1 per person can go a long way. There'll be more rewards and stretch goals and stuff too, but I have no idea what those will be as of the time I'm recording this, so you'll just have to see for yourself and make your own judgment. Right now is a great time for indie internet animation, allowing for so many creatives to make careers out of their dream projects. And I hope that we can collectively allow Death Battle to do the same. And if none of that gets through to you, then the more funding the show gets, the more episodes it can make, so the more chances they have to do that matchup that you like. This is going to be the year of Cole vs Alex and Galactus vs Unicron, I can feel it guys. And I think that'll be it for this video. Sorry it wasn't super thorough or cohesive, there was quite the tight turnaround for this, so this was as much as I could do. Hope you enjoyed this quick little video, thanks for watching, and go check out the Kickstarter if you can. Again, linked in the description. See you later.